Oh, yeah, we're not the suits that talk football. We are the dudes that know football. And you've just crossed over into the trend zone. Casey here with Dave. Dave, are you ready, bro?
Oh, yeah. You got that right, my friend. Let's get it going.
All right, next stop, the trend zone. It is Wednesday, November 6th. Coming to you from Los Angeles, California. It's a beautiful 68 degrees. And in today's episode,
69 here on the west side, Casey.
oh, isn't it always? Come on. In today's episode, we'll talk about the post trade deadline winners and losers. Another coach gets their walking papers, a little survivor or fantasy go back starts of the week, and all of the awesome games from the upcoming week. But Dave, you know we don't take a trip through the zone without a tasty nug, brother. What do you got for the peoples?
All right, I'm going to spill out a couple of nugs here, Casey. In week 9, 10 games. We're within one score. That is an 8-point game in the fourth quarter. 8 games were decided by 7 or fewer points. And there have been 75 games decided by 7 or fewer points and 65 games decided by 6 or fewer points this season so far. Those are the most through week 9 in NFL history. So, as always, the NFL strives for that parity and those toy games right there at the end. You never know. All the squirming, it's compliments of the NFL. You get to squirm all the way until halfway through the fourth quarter when you finally feel like you can exhale.
Yeah. Well, some of us aren't that lucky, but we'll see. We shall see. Hey, people, want to let you know that the Trend Zone is now available for subscription on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Blueberry, wherever you get your podcast. Pretty
Okay.
good stuff. All right, Dave, let's get into some top trending stories. The trade deadline came and went on Tuesday, and some pretty good names floating around out there.
Yeah, that I'm moving it back a week there, I think really did kind of embellish the trades. Let's start with za'darius Smith. Lions get za'darius Smith in a trade with the Browns. Smith goes to the Lions along with the 7th rounder from 2026 and a 2025 fifth round pick and a 6th rounder go to Cleveland. So they get this a 26 7th rounder back along with za'darius Smith and give up a 5th rounder in next year's draft and a 6th rounder in the year after that. All in all, just a little massaging of the draft picks. It's a pretty good deal for the Lions, who really needed some help on that defensive edge position.
And now Za'Darius has played for 3 of the 4 teams in the the NFC North there. I think he just got the Bears left to go. So, who knows? We'll see what happens next year.
Not saying anything's happening, but we know you're going to the Bears eventually.
And Dave, Mingo just pawn in Game of Life.
Not anymore, Casey. That is Jonathan Mingo, the former Carolina Panthers, on his way to Dallas to join the Dallas Cowboys, Casey. They get the second year Jonathan Mingo there out of Carolina. The Cowboys get Mingo in a 2025 7th round pick, and they give up a 2025 4th round pick. Steep, maybe, but depends on what you can get out of Mingo. If he's what you think he is moving forward, what do you think?
Yeah, dude, it seems pretty rich. I'm not going to say that the guy is a finished product or anything. I know
Mhm.
he went to Ole Miss, so the Debo comparisons are kind of there. He is 6'2", 220. Cowboys obviously in need of a second wide receiver and maybe a first wide receiver this weekend. He's big and strong. It hasn't panned out in Carolina, but who has panned out in Carolina? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it does feel rich, though. 4th rounder is a lot, but you're getting a young guy. He's only 23, and you're going to have for a couple more years. So,
Yeah, at least the price is right in terms of the cap. He's only got 12 catches, 121 yards on the season, so he is obviously fresh.
yeah. So hopefully he can have a little more productivity in Dallas.
Yeah.
All right, Dave, what do you got at running back?
That's the Bengals trade for Khalil Mack from the Bears uh, in the
Herbert.
future.
He's
Yeah.
not taking your Khalil
Oh,
Mack.
gosh, that's right. Khalil.
But who
No,
was a bear?
who was a Bear? That's right. Which is, I guess, why I was off on that. They get Khalil Herbert, the running back, who's kind of been a lost guy in the shuffle there on the Bengals for whatever reason. Excuse me, on the Bears. I guess the Bears are doing fine at running back there, but it'll be a 2025 7th round pick going back to the Bears for compensation. So not a lot there in spurts. There though, Herbert looks pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Last year, maybe the year before that, when he had a lot of carries.
Yeah. And then we kind of anticipated this move coming to once Devontae landed in New York.
Yeah, it's the Steelers make a trade for Mike Williams with the Jets. They get Mike Williams. They send a 2025 fifth rounder over to the Jets for him, which is pretty steep price. But former Charger there. I thought there was a chance there would be a reunion, but honestly, that's a little bit of a steep price, in my
Mhm.
opinion, for a guy who has had a hard time staying healthy and has not fully come back from that ACL. We'll see what the Steelers can get out of him. They tend to get a lot of productivity out of receivers there. And hopefully they'll get a chance to get him right on the field pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's a player I've kind of always liked. So I hope that he does have
Oh, he's a
success
great
there in
guy, man.
Pittsburgh.
I'd love
Yeah.
to see him come around. Just not against us in the playoffs.
Yeah.
No,
Just
no.
stay healthy. And then
Yeah.
Steelers weren't done with that.
Yeah, Steelers trade for Preston Smith, and that deal with the Packers. Apparently, he said basically he really wanted to get out of that Packers scheme, which is a 4-3, and back to the 3-4 where he was more comfortable. So he's been productive throughout his career. He's an older guy, but signed through 2026. He's cheap this year, but next year 12 mil. So we'll see if this is just a rental or if they're gonna be inclined to keep him beyond this year.
And then the Durs making moves too, already in first place in the NFC East. The Durs adding to that defense.
Yeah, they're getting Marshawn Lattimore out of New Orleans. He's joining the Commandos there. Uh, Commanders are giving up a third, fourth, and sixth round pick in
Ooh.
exchange for Lattimore and a fifth round pick. So um, essentially, it's kind of like swapping sixth for fifth and then giving up a third and a fourth also. So that's a pretty pricey acquisition there. He's 28 and he's a top notch cornerback though. So those those don't come cheap, whether it's
Mm-mm.
against the cap or against the draft pick compensation. So
And
yeah, there you have
last
it.
week, the Ravens added Deontay Johnson to the offense. They went out there and made a move on defense too.
Yeah, it's Tre'Davious White from the Rams. Um, he's going to Baltimore there, and the Ravens will send back a 2026 seventh round pick and White and a seventh rounder. Yeah, so 2027 rounder also. So that's almost nothing. But he
Yeah.
had fallen out of favor there in the Rams. He wasn't getting any playing time, and it wasn't like it was a horrible acrimonious situation. It's just that they just weren't using him, and he
Yeah.
wanted to get out there. They wanted to help him out in a sense, move him and give him a chance to play.
All right. Anything else? Any more?
How about the 49ers trade for Khalil Davis from the Texans? That is a defensive tackle. Khalil Davis goes to San Francisco for a seventh round pick in 26.
All right. Hey, quick question. Did you probably never did this, but back in the day when you into a movie theaters and you might have snuck in a beverage and when you went to open you
Oh,
no?
yeah.
Or is that just me? Oh,
No, I did that a number of times.
I bet you did. All right, Dave. We've had some coaches coming and going, and this Saint is going marching out.
Yeah, and if we had more time last week's show, or there wasn't so much trending news, we might have been on the hot seat for this guy
Mhm.
heading into this week with the number of losses that had piled up for the Saints organization. They go ahead and move on from Dennis Allen. He's been there for a long time,
Mhm.
really, as the DC, and then he took over for Sean Payton as the head coach there. Um, you know, I guess when you lose whatever it is, 7 games in a row, nobody's immune.
Mhm.
Um, I would say, all said and done, very good defensive coordinator. Maybe not a great head coach. The second time he's been let go, he was on the Raiders, I believe, for a little while there, a year or year and a half or so. So we'll see. Maybe he doesn't get another shot at a head coaching job, but his defensive coordinator skills will definitely land him some work in the NFL.
Yeah, Derek Carr's gotten that guy fired twice now. So there you go. I don't know what the common factor is, but so you said he got fired from the Raiders too. The Raiders made a couple moves as well, not Allen related, but Raider related.
Raiders, yeah. Antonio Pierce in his first year as the actual head coach after taking over as an interim last year and succeeding relatively well. This year they're struggling. Uh, it starts at some point. There's a scapegoat. Let's say this time it's offensive coordinator Luke Getsy, quarterbacks coach Rick Scangarello, and offensive line coach James Craig. They got blowed out by the Bengals last week, and that was the last straw. Um, all those coaches were hired by Pierce, and they were also all fired by Pierce. So he's saying it's all on me, which is fine. They, you know, they'll have to evaluate what they think of Mr. Pierce at the end of this season.
Yeah, and he's going to go ahead and bring in Norv Turner as an assistant. So can't go wrong with Norv there, baby. He's had a lot of success in that role in the NFL
Yeah, it's
at
been a
different
while since we've
places.
seen Norv in action, but I do believe he was there as a head coach, maybe even for a brief stint. And of course, it's been a while, like I said, but he was on the Chargers staff from 2007 to 2012. So that's
Yeah.
a good stretch of time laying back and I guess studying film.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Chargers, your Chargers have a little flex appeal, bro.
Yeah, that's right. It is time for the flex alert. Um, the league flexed the Sunday night game. It was going to be a Super Bowl III rematch between the Colts and the Jets in Week 11, and now it'll be swapped out. It's the Bengals and Chargers for a pretty competitive ball game between those sort of middling teams in the AFC that are trying to claw into that playoff scenario. Chargers currently in it, Bengals currently out of it, but it's a week-to-week league, as we know.
Mhm.
So that should be a really good football game in San Diego, in SoFi Stadium here in Los Angeles.
Dave, you have season tickets and you just said San Diego.
I can't believe I slipped up like that. Of course, yeah. I've been
Well,
a
you,
Charger fan for a while, so
yeah, just a little bit there, a little bit. All right.
best. Hey, I got to tell you, the toughest 45, 50 years of my life. I'll tell you, being a
Yeah.
Charger fan.
But
Okay,
other than that, all
yeah,
right, let's go.
great times, great times.
We usually add insult to injury, but today we're just gonna do injuries.
Yeah, started with Chris Olave. It's a concussion for Olave. He took a big hit in that Charger game, and I thought maybe he would be concussed in that, but that wasn't a concussion apparently. But this one is. It's his fifth documented concussion and his second concussion this season. So those things concern me. I would think that he's going to be out for a little while here. Probably you got to be careful, especially if there's two this season already.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. And then big injury and Big D.
Yeah,
Oh,
sorry, Casey. This is your guy, Dak Prescott. We didn't know the details of it. He was getting an MRI, blah, blah, blah. Now it appears to be a partially torn tendon off of the bone, which sounds horrible
ugh.
in that hamstring issue for him. He'll miss at least a handful of games. They still are looking for a second opinion just before they determine whether IR is the right place for him. I imagine they're going to make that determination relatively quickly so they can take advantage of the more of the IR tag if they need to, if he's going to be gone for at least 4 weeks. And that severity level sounds like
That
four
sounds
weeks
like
to
more
me.
than 4 weeks, bro. When
Yeah.
it's off the bone. And
Ugh.
plus, in 4 weeks, dude, who knows where the Cowboys are going to be? Their schedule is brutal the next
Ugh.
month of the season. So I don't know that we need to rush this cat
But
back.
they have all the other guys, right?
Well, not so fast. CD's got a bum AC. We saw him
Ooh.
fall down on that shoulder in the Atlanta game. He came back to get the 2-point conversion, but there's speculation that he might miss this week too. So, yeah, more insult and injury to this Cowboys season, dude. It has not gone well. But at least
Well,
that Mingo
yeah. Oh,
trade.
sorry. Welcome,
Yeah,
Mingo.
yeah, yeah. Good luck, brother. Okay, what else you got on the injury front?
Yeah, a couple of guys. We're not sure of the severity. They may go this week. They may not. It's Caleb Williams. So they're big names, though. So worth mentioning. Caleb Williams with an ankle may or may not play this week. Probably will, my guess. AJ Brown for Philly. He's been banged up pretty good. We're not sure if he'll miss any time or not. Uh, and then Keon Coleman also, he's been banged up in multiple ways with the wrist, the forearm, blah, blah, blah. So he may or may not be out for any time. More severe injuries, though, on the front for Cincinnati. Two guys got put on IR, Zach Moss, and that's obviously related to the acquisition of the running back through free agency there, and tight end Eric All, either a rookie or a second-year guy. I'm not sure which, but another guy there. He's going to miss the rest of the season with a torn ACL. Zach Moss just on IR. We'll hopeful for a return.
Brutal. Well, with all that Cincinnati talk, Dave, let's go ahead and seg on into total fantasy domination. Dave, I said Bengals, give me a quarterback.
Yeah, it's Joe Burrow for the Cookie Monsters. Cincinnati's guy there, 251 passing yards, 5 touchdowns passing, just 1 interception there, and 11 rush yards for Joe Burrow.
Oh, and you have any idea who the Cookie Monsters were playing this week by any chance?
I don't know, but looks like a lot of people from Cookie Monsters and your Foul Boys are on our list here.
Yeah, running back also on the Cookie Monsters, Saquon Barkley, 159 rush yards, rush touchdown, 40 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown. I guess you can pay a 27-year-old running back $13 million a year, and sometimes it works out.
Yeah, don't tell. Yeah, King Henry also fits in a similar mold to that. All right, at the receiver position in his breakout game, Jackson Smith-Njiba for your foul Boys in the Seattle Seahawks, 180 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, and then also for those Cincinnati Bengals, Mike Gesicki, the tight end, baby, getting it done. He had 100 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Okay, Dave, we just did the total fantasy domination. Now it is time for our go back fantasy starts of the week. If you could go back to Sunday morning, could you make a lineup change that would have helped to get you to victory?
I could not. I had the right lineup in there, Casey, but I do want to swing back real quick for an interesting note that I thought. Smith-Njiba was one of 4 receivers that are picked back to back to back to back that are currently in their second years. I believe all of them had at least 1 touchdown over the weekend. I know Quentin Johnston had his big game for the Chargers and a touchdown. One was Jordan Addison. He also had a touchdown. Here we have Smith-Njiba with a touchdown, and I'm pretty sure Flowers had a touchdown for the Ravens as well. Just an interesting oddball note that popped into my head right now.
Yeah, Flowers has been going nuts too. Yeah,
Sure has. Nice little 4-pack of receivers there, and
big
some
time.
were separating themselves from others, but this weekend they all put out.
That's right. Hey, you
Yep.
like it when a receiver puts out, huh?
Oh, it's like that, huh?
Speaking of being put out, it's
How'd
time
you do?
for Survivor.
No fantasy
3
go backs for you?
strikes. Well, okay, so here we go. I picked up D-Hop in free agency, so
Good idea.
I also have Mahomes and Kelsey. So I was debating whether I should play Keon Coleman, who's been pretty good, or D-Hop. So of course I went with Coleman, and I was going up against the Cookie Monsters, and going into Monday night, he had like a 60-point lead on me. And obviously D-Hop had 2 touchdowns and about 100 yards. Kelsey had about 100 yards, and Mahomes had almost 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I was doing the math in my head because I watched the game in tape delay. I was like, oh no, it's going to be close. But it turns out I would have lost even had D-Hop played in his 20 points. So I felt a little bit better about him
Cookie
being on my
Monsters
bench.
had a monster day, though, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The Jets defense, Saquon, Joe Burrow. So I still got second in the monies. So that was okay for me.
Right.
So at least I got paid for losing. So
I think I actually scored in the money this time, too. So
nice.
I've got my
But my
fair. I
team,
didn't double check that, but I had my best score of the year.
my team is on the up. So hopefully I can sneak into the playoffs, but I'm on like a
I'm looking
4-game
forward to
losing
getting my
streak.
first overall selection on the field. That's it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, eventually. Okay, so now it really is time for Survivor 3 strikes.
Yeah.
How'd your team do?
Well, I don't have a team anymore, Casey. I
Mm.
struck out in week 5, 3 wrong out of the first 5. Other than that, though, pretty good.
Well, then who was the most popular pick
It
in
was
week
Philly
9?
over Jayville. That was almost 23%. The most popular incorrect pick was New Orleans over Carolina. The theory of who's playing Carolina gets you to the championship there might have killed some people. That was more than 10% of the people.
And dude, I had Philadelphia, and it almost cost me my third. If T-Law doesn't throw that interception right there, all those Philly people in 23% go down too. So we stave off
Woo!
elimination for one more week. So Dave, where should we go for week 10?
Okay, I got 3 pretty good ones for you. Chargers over the Titans. That one's 21.5%. Minnesota over Jayville, that is 18.5%, and Kansas City over Denver, 16%. So nice distribution there. If you got one of those three teams, then you're set.
All right, that sounds pretty good. You know what, though? The hell with all this fantasy and
Garbage.
survivor crap. Let's
Yeah.
get into the real deal, baby. The games. That's why we're here. Dave, it is week 10 on the NFL schedule.
Week 10. Hold on. Let me do a little calculations.
Carry the one.
It's slipping away.
It's slipping away. We're into double-digit weeks now.
Oh my
Week
God.
10.
The hell?
Where does the time go, Dave?
I don't know,
That's
man.
what I
Are there
want
any
to
buys
know.
this week, Casey?
There are. The Browns, the Packers, the Raiders, and the Seahawks are all on a bye week. But, Dave, we have a super tasty game. Thursday night special, AFC
Beautiful.
North. It is the Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens, and the Ravens are 6-point favorites at home.
And this is a tasty deal here with these two divisional teams going at each other, Casey. And the Bengals kind of really just clawing their way back into contention here. They're 4-5, but they've lost some close games. Think of it this way. I know they lost to the Patriots in the beginning of the year there, but lost to Kansas City by 1. Lost to Washington by 5, lost to Baltimore previously by 3, making this game even more important. Those are all close games to good teams, man. Just a couple of different plays here and there. And these guys have a different record than 4-5. But of course, they cannot be swept by Baltimore. And they would be 3 games back in the win column if that were the case, man. That'd be brutal and be obviously very tough to win the division. Then you're just hoping for a wild card at that point, basically, especially with Pittsburgh at 6-2 in that division. Oof. I mean, wow, it's not easy there. So last week, the Bengals crushed the Raiders, though. Good for them. They had Burrow, as we mentioned earlier, 251, 5 touchdowns, just 1 pick. Gesicki also there. Playing well for them, 100 yards and 2 touchdowns for him. Chase Brown, 120 yards on the ground. So T. Higgins, though, heading into this week is doubtful.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for that. And left tackle Orlando Brown didn't play last week, and he's also questionable for this one. So interesting. Hopefully they can field a lot of good players because this does look like it's going to be a hell of a matchup.
Yeah, dude, last week when the Ravens lost to the Brownies, we were raging because King Henry only got 11 carries. And we say, what is the formula for the Ravens? Giving King Henry the ball. 23 carries last week, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's what works. Also, Lamar only 19 attempts. I'm sensing a theme here. 16 and 19, 3 touchdowns. Give Henry the ball and let Lamar just do his thing when he needs to. And I talked about it a minute ago. Zay Flowers going off, dude. 5 receptions, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. I think he's gone over 100 yards for like a month straight, man. The dude is absolutely balling, but that is the formula. They absolutely dominated the Broncos last week. And, man, you get Henry those carries, dude, late in that game. Cats start making business decisions and, deciding if they want to get in this guy's way. So, usually they do not want to. So give him the ball. But you mentioned, man, this is a huge game for the Bengals. Actually, a pretty big game for the Ravens, too. Put these kitty cats away and fight with Pittsburgh to be the leader of that AFC North.
Totally. And this is sort of a game of opposing styles in a way. Like when you look at what each team is going to want to achieve in this game, the Ravens are going to want to obviously run the football with King Henry, as you mentioned. The Bengals are going to want to pass it. The Ravens defense is last in the league, and they're against the pass, number 1 against the run. So, I mean, why go up against that? You got to pass it if you're the Bengals. So it looks like they're going to be swinging the ball around the lot. Ravens want to move the clock and run the football and control it. So contrasting styles. We'll see who can come out on top.
All right, let's go ahead and get European on this one, Dave.
Yeah, international games, Casey. The Munich game at Allianz Arena, home of the FC Bayern in Munich there, of course. And it will be the New York Giants at the Carolina Panthers in Munich. And a battle of 2 and 7 squads. Casey has the Giants as the away team in this one, favored by 7.5.
Yeah, Dave, and I think these fans might rather see the Rhine Fire versus the Cologne Centurions or something like that, dude, because we used to apologize for the games we're sending over to England. Now we have to apologize to the game we're sending over to Germany, dude.
Yep.
Neither team's liking where their season is at this point. You mentioned both of the teams 2-7. Not a lot of bright spots on this Giants team other than Tyrone Tracy. He had another strong week running the ball for those Gigantes. They were actually kind of in this game for the most part, but just too many mistakes overall, and just not a great team. And Malik Neighbors, he continues to play well in his rookie season. 9 grabs, only 60 yards, but you can see the playmaking ability there. And then over these Panthers, Bryce Young is probably going to be the guy for the rest of the season. They brought him back in. They obviously got rid of all their weapons in the receiving core.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Come on back,
So
Bryce.
good luck with that. But another bright spot for them has been Chuba Hubbard. He's like 5th in the league rushing the football. So, yeah, I might not get up early for this one. Just burn through it and watch it commercial free when I decide to awaken from my slumber on Sunday. It's not one that I'm getting up at 6:34.
Yeah. Hey, in NFL, note to NFL, next year schedule a game on that fallback weekend really early because we're getting up earlier that day
Yeah.
anyways. Help us out a little bit, man.
See, Dave is a thinking man, baby. Come on now. Get it going.
All
All
right,
right.
moving on to the early games on Sunday, the regular slot of early games. It is going to be, oh yeah, you've got what do we got, Casey? Let me know.
Yeah, I was just about to do that. It is the
Got it.
Buffalo Bills at the Indianapolis Colts, and the Bills are 4-point favorites in this one.
Yeah. Okay. 7-2, the Bills. They got a big divisional win last week against Miami. And Miami actually tied the game up inside 2 minutes of that one. And the Bills kicked the game winning field goal, 61-yarder from Bass there in the waning seconds. So a really impressive finish. Josh Allen there throwing the ball, 235, 3 touchdowns and a pick. The win gave Buffalo. A 4 or 5 game lead on the rest of the division, who depending on which team you are. So they are in control of the division as much as any team is in this NFL right now. Colts on the other side came up short, losing to Minnesota. They dropped to 4-5 on the season. Benching of Richardson for Flacco for the remainder of the season gives them a steady leader. Although last week they just could not get a lot going there on the ground or through the air, generating just 6 points on offense. And on the defense, did score a touchdown on a fumble recovery there. They need a lot more offense in order to stay with these Bills. Also, the Bills are plus 11 in the turnover ratio, so much more stingy with the football on offense and still getting the ball on defense. So that's, I believe that leads the league there at plus 11, or at least tied for it.
Yeah, the Bills, like you said, running away at that division. The Colts got to find a way to sneak out a couple wins, or they're going to find themselves too far out of that playoff mix for a wild card spot in the
They're
AFC.
sitting there at 4-5, just kind of stealthy. They need to find some more offense if they're going to compete this week.
Yep.
All right, moving on. It's the Denver Broncos at the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs are at home, favored by 8.
Yeah, I mentioned the Broncos got the beat down at the wings of the Raven last week. Bo Nix really struggled, kind of his toughest game, 19 of 33, 223 yards, an interception. He did have that sweet TD reception, though, from Cortland Sutton, I believe that it was. So the main thing the Broncos have been doing is playing pretty good football and being able to run the ball. And that wasn't the case. Javonte Williams only 12 for 42 last week. And then Bo Nix, he did have 36 rushing yards, but it was not enough against that Ravens team when that offense is going. Like we said, Derrick Henry running the ball. That limits your opportunities. So you have to capitalize when you got them. And the Broncos were just unable to do that last week. So the bad news for them, they're going to play the undefeated Chiefs in Kansas City.
Yeah. Chiefs simply find a way to win by doing just enough every week to get the W. They beat Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football in overtime to get to 8-0 on the season. Mahomes, 34 44, 291, three TDs there. Kelsey was big, 14 catches for 100 yards, seemed to move the chains all the time there. DeAndre Hopkins, you mentioned earlier, a huge game for him. 8 catches, 86 yards, and a touchdown.
Two
Two
touchdowns.
touchdowns, rather. Yeah,
I
in
know
his
because he was on my bench.
yeah, and that's only his second game there, so he's obviously a good contribution there. Kareem Hunt over 100 yards and a touchdown there. So all of their dudes that have been brought in to help out are helping out there. Um, and this is one on a personal note, one of the 2 times a year that I get to root for the Broncos. Go
All
Broncos!
right. Yeah. Because I know you love all that orange almost as much as you love red.
Oh my god. Ugh. It's going to be a sea of red there in Kansas City, as we know.
Yeah.
So
All right. All right, brother. Up next, we have the San Francisco 49ers at the Tampa Bay Bucs, and the Niners are 5.5-point favorites on the road.
yeah, in this Niners season, it's been injury plagued, 4-4 there, but they're still just unbelievably. It's disappointing, but they're just a half a game out of first
Yeah.
place in the NFC West, which is a logjam for all those 4 teams there. They're coming off a bye, but 2 weeks ago they eked out a win against your Cowboys, Casey, as I'm sure you remember. McCaffrey's window for return from IR is open, and he's been practicing this week. Although Jordan Mason and Isaac Guerrero have played well,
Mhm.
McCaffrey was the offensive player of the year last year. He had over 2,000 yards from scrimmage and 21 total touchdowns. They're hoping to have him back in action this week, and so am I as a fantasy player here, as an owner. Bring him back.
Yeah, dude. And these Bucks, man, they finally fall under 500. They're at 4-5, but they've lost 3 games, either late in the fourth quarter,
Yeah,
last play of the game, or in overtime. And we saw that on Monday night, dude. The weather was crap in Kansas City, but I don't know if there's another player that their playing style looks like their personality, and that's Baker
yeah,
Mayfield, dude. It's hard not to like this dude. Maybe if you're an NFC South fan of one of those teams, but dude, his playing style and his energy is infectious. And he's got no Chris Godwin, he's got no Mike Evans, and
yeah.
had them going toe to toe with the defending world champs. Drives down there, 30 seconds left in the game. The tying touchdown. You can go for 2 to try to get the hell out of Kansas City with it, or you go into overtime. Bowles elects to go into overtime. I hated the decision. You got one play to win or lose. You need 2.5 yards to get the 2 points.
And
Otherwise, you have to either drive down the field and get a touchdown, or you have to stop Mahomes from going down the field and getting a touchdown. We saw it in the Super Bowl, and when they did the coin toss on Monday night, you saw Baker when tails fails because it was heads. He was like, "Oh crap," because he knew, and that's what happened. So I put that on the coach, man. Roll those dice, baby. Get out of there with the win. But it's not going to be any easier this week. Those guys are still out, Godwin and Evans. Bucky Irving has been sweet addition to this team.
yeah,
And we also saw Rashad White kind of get back in the mix. And
they've been
Kate
running the
Otten,
ball well.
yeah, and Kate Otten's been holding it down with those 2 receivers gone. Another big
Yeah.
game for him. 8 catches, 77 yards, and a touchdown. So they're going to need all hands on deck at the Big Sombrero to try to beat these Niners, and they better watch themselves because they're falling obviously below 500, but they've lost both games to the Falcons. So they got to start creeping up there. Getting an NFC win would go a long way for that.
No question. Okay, moving on. The Atlanta Falcons at the New Orleans Saints. Falcons on the road, favored by 3.5 in this one. What you got?
Yeah, and Kirk Cousins, dude, every week he's getting a little bit better. And
Sure
last week
is.
he didn't have Drake London after the first series. Of course, London was good enough to go down there and grab a touchdown against the Cowboys before eventually leaving that game with a hip pointer. I think he's probably going to play in this one, but on the offensive side of the ball, I love what Atlanta's doing, man.
Mhm.
We mentioned London there. Pitts had kind of a quiet game, but Ray McLeod is doing some nice work there too. But it's really Darnell Mooney, man. This guy is, if you got him late in a fantasy league, you are
Score.
completely stoked because
Yeah.
he's a huge part of this offense. And the 1-2 punch between Bijan and Tyler Algier has been pretty epic too, man. Bijan with 140 combined yards on the game.
Wow.
Cowboys did a good job slowing that run down, but out of the backfield, he was a lot to take care of. And then we talk about the Saints. Derek Carr comes back. They're unable to beat the Panthers. That was enough for the ownership to fire Dennis Allen. So usually that comes with a pick me up when the coach
Usually,
goes
yes.
down, but I don't know that I see it against this Falcons offense. It is a divisional game, so anything can
Right.
happen, but I think you probably got some cats already checking out on that Saints side of the ball.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, this is gonna be tough. They are gonna have to find a lot of motivation in this one to beat this Atlanta team that's definitely clicking with Kirk Cousins playing the way he is.
Dave, if I told you up next we had a Super Bowl rematch coming up, would that get you stoked?
Dude, I would be totally stoked on that.
Would you still be totally stoked if I told you it was the Patriots against the Chicago Bears there, and those Bears are 6-point favorites?
Are you talking about the '85 Bears? The Bears, led
Oh,
by
Bears.
Ditka and Jim McMahon with the headband and the
He was the
whole the
punky QB known
video.
as McMahon.
That's
When he's on
right.
the field, he's
They,
got no plan.
those guys crushed the Patriots 46-10. I'll tell you what. Let's go to this actual modern version of both of these teams. This year's Patriots likely to have no chance to get crushed in the Super Bowl like their old team did. Last week they lost another to another struggling team in the Titans, which pretty tough to believe after they had beaten the Jets the week before. This Patriots team, at 2-7, they're in position to possibly get the top pick in the draft. The 4-4 Bears, they'd won 3 games straight before losing on a Hail Mary to the Commanders there. And then they dropped their second in a row, losing to the Cardinals last week. That Cardinals team, interesting. Although Rome Odunze did have a nice game, Caleb Williams was just kind of okay last week,
Mhm.
running around, and he's kind of a little banged up, as we mentioned, but very unimpressive performance for their running game too.
Yeah.
Just 69 yards on the ground last week for the Bears. That's not going to do it really, although it might be enough this week because that Patriots team there's just the way that their style of play is. You don't need a ton of offense, but the Bears defense also did give up over 200 yards on the ground last week, which
Wow.
is alarming. So if the Patriots are going to win this football game, you expect them to want to run the ball against this team and try and recreate that formula from last week's Bears loss. They, of course, the Bears will likely kind of play a little better this time. They are plus 7 in the turnover ratio. So as long as they can hold on to the football and just kind of get into a rhythm, they should hopefully, for the Bears fans, be able to handle business in this one.
Yeah, I don't know if that Hail Mary loss for them is going to permeate through the rest of the
Right.
season. Man, sometimes it's hard to shake that, especially when stuff was kind of going well for them.
Yeah.
So see if they can get it together. Maybe the Patriots are a good get right game for them.
Yeah, that's hopefully for them it is. And there was some turmoil there with the guy chitter chatting and with the fans and stuff, and the way he handled himself in after fact as well. But let's hope that they can get that behind them.
Yeah, and Caleb's got to play better. Bottom line.
Simple. Okay, moving it along, Casey. What do we got?
We got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Washington Commanders there, Dave.
Oh,
And the Durs are 3-point favorites at home. So go ahead and talk about the Durs.
yes. Last week it was the Commanders that beat the Giants to bring their record to an impressive 7-2. Right, they're leading the NFC East. They're one of the most exciting teams in the league, uh, just to watch. Of
Well,
course, it's
pump the brakes on all that crap.
obviously it's Jaden Daniels doing his thing, dude. He's spectacular. Um, he was efficient last week, let's say 200 plus yards, 2 touchdowns for Daniels, but his passer rating was 128. So a really nice passer rating there. They're hoping to get Brian Robinson back this week. He missed last week. I'm hoping to have him back too. He's one of my fantasy dudes. But even without him, they gained 118 yards. So they can, with their 3 running back scenario there with Eckler and Robinson and is it McNichols, I believe, the third dude.
Yeah.
Anyways, they're putting together a good ground game. On the season, the offense is running the ball. Their third best rushing team. They're third in yards per game overall, and at they're also third in points per game at 29 points plus per game. So a really good offense when they're clicking, but it is going to be a very tough matchup as Pittsburgh is a physical defense, as you know.
Yeah, Mr. Daniels, I would like you to meet Mr. Watt. He does not have an affinity for quarterbacks. He does not like them. So you better watch out for that. And dude, don't look now, but these Steelers are alone in first place in the AFC North. They were winning games with Justin Fields, but they weren't doing it with a lot of points or a lot of yards or a lot of offense.
Right.
Russ is back from that calf injury, and it looks like vintage Seattle Seahawks Russ, man. He's out there finding George Pickens, which looks like that's going to be a sweet combination moving forward. Not sure what they'll get out of Mike Williams in this game if he'll play. Hopefully they have a few plays for him.
Right.
But Patrick Henry, Sarsipius Fryermuth is really stoked with Russell Wilson running that offense there too. And the Steelers invested all that in the offensive line. It's getting healthy again. They're starting to run the ball a little bit more. Najee with almost 600 yards on the season, and Jalen Warren's finally getting healthy again too. But this Steelers team plays great defense. They're going to have their hands full against this Commanders offense though. But this team, I think with Russ, we'll see, but I feel like they're going to start elevating, and they might not pull away from the Ravens, but they are definitely putting it together to make a deep run. You can trust Russ in the postseason, let him cook with that running game and that defense. And Mike Tomlin, we've seen him do a ton with way less talent.
Yeah.
Now he's got a good offensive line. He's got the star receiver, and he's got the Super Bowl winning quarterback. So
Speaking of Super Bowl,
Steelers.
is this a Super Bowl preview? 6-2 Steelers, 7-2 Commandos. Maybe I'm ahead of myself, Casey. But back to this actual matchup for this weekend. That Pittsburgh defense you mentioned, real physical. They're real good against the run, and they don't give up many points. Under 15 points a game this season. Also, the turnover ratio, that's a big factor. They're plus 10 in the turnover ratio too. So Washington has got to make sure they hold on to the football and don't let the Steelers take it away. You can't let the Steelers play their game on you.
Yeah.
As the Commanders, you have to be able to do what you do well, and they want to run the ball, but that's Steelers defense.
Yeah, good luck. Rookie quarterback against the Steelers, dude. We shall see.
Yeah.
That is going to be a great game. And
Yes,
Dave,
it is.
speaking of great games, this one, not so much. It's the Minnesota Vikings at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
And those Vikes are 4-point favorites in this one.
Yeah, Vikings 6-2 started off 5-0, lost 2 straight, and then got back in the win column last week, beating the Colts. Sam Darnold had a nice day, going 290 with 3 touchdowns and 2 picks there. And of the 9 guys who caught a pass, Justin Jefferson was his primary target there. He got 7 for 137, although it was Oliver, Addison, and Naylor who all caught touchdown passes. And good news for Vikings fans, T.J. Hawkinson was on the field for the first time this year. He had 3 catches in his first game back, knocking the rust off. Jags on the other side, a disappointing 2-7 after losing another close one to the Eagles. You mentioned a late interception. They have been close in a lot of games, but just 2-7 on the season. It's just so disappointing. Trevor Lawrence is banged up a little bit. He really struggled. He threw 2 picks in the game overall. His passer rating was under 41, and the running game was held to just 60 yards. So that is not a formula for success in any football level, certainly not an NFL game.
Yeah, Peterson will probably be the next coach on that list.
Yeah.
That
Another stat, and I love to throw out this turnover bullshit, but my Minnesota +4, Jacksonville -7. And again, it's been the turnovers that lose the games for the Jaguars.
We saw it on Sunday. You eliminate that, and you're winning that game in Philly. Brutes. All right, what we got next, brother?
Yeah, moving on to the late slot, Casey. It is the New York Jets at the Arizona Cardinals, and the Cardinals are at home favored by just 1.
Yeah, dude, and these New York Jets, man, on Halloween night get their best probably game, definitely their best win of the season. Rodgers super efficient, 22 of 32, only 200 yards, but 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Maybe the catch of the year with Garrett Wilson in the back of the end zone.
I still dispute that catch, though. I don't know about
you thought the knee was out before the shin.
I just don't know that the shin has been ever part of the 2 feet down in the end zone thing before that particular call.
Yeah, we have to go back and work on that because the one that pisses me off when your toes are in, but your heels
And the
eventually
heel
touch
comes down.
out.
So
So
certainly this was that because the knee came down.
yeah. But nonetheless, a great effort by him. He had 90 yards. Devontae getting in on the action too. He had 90 yards and a touchdown. So maybe this Jets offense is starting to figure it out a little bit. That is a big win against an AFC team competing for a playoff spot. And Dave, these Cardinals, bro, I want to believe. I
Me
want to
too.
believe. I love Kyler Murray. I love Connor. Uh, Harrison Jr. is making his way. They've
Yeah.
shown that they can play with
Tight
the
end,
best
Casey
teams. Yeah. Oh,
McBride,
McBride, come on. This guy is a rising superstar in the
big
league.
time.
So they're going to have their hands full with this. But when Kyler's doing his Kyler thing, bro, it is something awesome to watch. But every time I invest in these cards, they let me down. So I'm trying to keep them at arm's length. But I love what's going on there with these Cardinals. And right now, they're in first place in the NFC West.
Yeah, and you never know when you have the quarterback Kyler doing what he does. He's a big play waiting to happen. He can explode and take over a game. And then
Mm-hmm.
the way Connor runs, you said it, the physicality, breaking tackles. He runs with more determination than any back in the league. It's
Yeah,
weird. He came from the Steelers. He's the perfect Steelers back.
I
They should have
know.
kept him. This guy's great.
Absolutely. Yeah. He's a great fit on that squad, too, because he was all pissed off about the guys on the Cardinals last year that he thought weren't interested
That's
enough
right.
in football. He's like, let's get them the hell out of there because I'm all about that business, baby. And I love it. So,
Fun team to root for.
yeah, hopefully they can keep it going. All right. Speaking of a fun team to root for, it's the Tennessee Titans at our Los Angeles Chargers, and our Chargers are 7.5-point favorites at home.
Wow, it's a big spread for my Charger team, our Charger team, that is. Welcome
Ours.
aboard.
Thank you.
Titans 2-6. Getting into the win column last week, though, beating the Pats. Mason Rudolph with a decent day with 2 touchdowns and just 1 pick. Pollard had a really nice day, 128 yards there. They may, though, go back to Will Levis, although he's coming back from that shoulder. He's been practicing this week. He hasn't played since week 6. In his 5 games, he's completed under 67%, 5 TDs and 7 picks. And his big downfall has been the big mistakes at the wrong time. Go ahead, put in, put
Yeah,
put
bring it
in that.
back, baby.
I encourage it. Right. Chargers 5-3 after getting their second straight win last week in Cleveland, beating the Browns. The defense was totally dominant last week, sacking Winston 6 times, picking him off 3 times. Could have had 2 or 3 other picks too. They gave up only 10 points, and 7 of them were in the last minute. They held them to 3 all the way up to that last minute. On the season, the defense is number 1 in points given up at just 12.6 a game, and they haven't given up more than 20 points in a single game this season. So defense playing great. They give up a lot of yards, but they don't give up points.
Yeah.
So Justin Herbert on the offensive side had his 3rd straight impressive football game. He was 18 of 27, 282 for 2 touchdowns, a 125.9 passer rating for him. Quentin Johnston had his best game of his pro career, 4 catches, 118 yards and a touchdown. J.K. Dobbins, 85 yards and 2 touchdowns with a 6.1 yard carry. I love the 6.1 yard carry,
Yeah.
except it's a little bit confused. Let's say mysterious. Here's the reason why. The ground game is either a huge play or almost nothing. It's like a
Yeah.
1 yard, 2 yard, 1 yard. They have got to be able to run more consistently than they are right now. Otherwise, when they're playing the better teams, their ground game stops. Too many 3 and outs for this Charger team because the run game isn't consistent enough. In
Yeah.
that second half, 3 and out, 3 and out. We're just hanging around. Our defense bailing us out. But also gave up 5 sacks, maybe 6 last week. And you can't have Herbert taking that kind of pounding back there. Got to have better play from the interior offensive line in particular. But Myles Garrett, woo, that guy had a day. In this one, though, back to the turnover ratio as I wrap things up, Casey. Chargers +9, one of the top teams. Tennessee -11. That's a 20 turnover differential. No wonder these teams are where they are right now.
Well, don't tell me about the turnover ratio in this game coming up. Just tell me about
Okay.
the game.
I will tell you who's playing, though. It is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Dallas Cowboys in this one, and the Eagles on the road favored by 7.
Yeah, and these teams clearly headed in different directions, dude. And I would be remiss if I didn't go back and talk about that sweet ass Saquon Barkley backwards 180 hurdle, whatever the hell you want to call it. I've never seen anything like that. And I don't know if you saw the video of Blankenship on the sideline. They showed him, and he's like, "Oh my god," losing his mind. That was crazy. Saquon has been such a wonderful addition to that Philadelphia team, specifically the offense. And you know that Kellen Moore would love to come back and really take it out on these Cowboys who fired him and sent him packing to Los Angeles. So it looks like it's coming over to Philadelphia, although Sirianni surprisingly is on the hot seat for a team that's 6-2 because this cat's a weirdo, bro. Chirping with
Yeah.
the fans, going for two when you don't need to, making some real harebrained decisions. So far, they haven't hurt him, but when the competition gets a little tighter, that might mean something come playoff time or postseason. But
Yep.
the Cowboys won't have to worry about any of those postseason mistakes because they're just not going to be there this season. We talked about Dak Prescott with the injury. It sounds a lot longer than 4 weeks to me when you get a tendon ripped off the bone. So Dak's out. It's probably going to be, well, it will be Cooper Rush, at least starting until the Cowboys are eliminated. And then you have to see what Trey Lance has. You
Hmm.
traded a 4th-round pick for this guy.
Hmm.
He showed flashes in preseason. He needs more reps. You have the perfect opportunity there. I just don't think Jared thinks that this season is over, but Dave, this season is over. Even if they went on a run to get to the playoffs, I can't imagine them doing anything there with their inability to stop the run and their inability to run the football. We mentioned no Dak, probably no CD. So it's Cooper Rush, it's Rico Dowdle, it might be Mingo. So and it's Jalen Tolbert and maybe Jake Ferguson. So there's nothing you can say that the Cowboys do well except maybe turn the football over. So it's gonna be a long day for the Cowboys, although it is the NFC East, so it gets kinky. So it'd be the
Right.
most NFL thing ever for the Cowboys to win this game.
Right.
I just can't. There's nothing that
Right.
they're not doing well. They're not coaching well. They had 10 guys on the field on defense, 12 guys on the field on offense. They don't know how to cover stuff in man. So it's a lot of mistakes. It feels like a dead team walking. So
Yeah. That seemingly is just when the Cowboys blow you away, but that's normally a great game from Dak, and that's not going to happen in this particular one. So it's a
no.
shame. There is the both receivers, Devontae Smith and AJ Smith, or AJ Brown rather. I'm sorry, are banged up and questionable. So I mean, if those guys can't go or are very or significantly limited, maybe that kind of tightens it up a little bit.
Well, that just means more carries for Saquon and the way the Cowboys are stopping the run. Although traditionally they've done well against Saquon, but that's when
Yeah,
he was on the Giants. So
yeah, he's on a different
yeah,
team
it's a
now.
different team. All right, Dave, let's get to a good game, bro. And this is pretty sexy. We got the
Real good.
Detroit Rock City Lions at the Houston Texans, and the Lions are 3.5-point favorites on the road. And dude, I'm in love with this Lions team, bro.
Yeah, Dan Campbell. Ever since his first press conference, when I thought he was a clown, I mean, the guy is brilliant and
Mhm.
he's everything you want in a football coach. But let's talk Lions. 7-1, one of the most entertaining and dominant teams in the league. They're currently on top of all the teams in the NFC, the number one seed technically right now. Come off a huge win in the NFC North against Green Bay in a total deluge there to get their sixth win in a row. Jared Goff continued his excellent season with another efficient game. Just 18 of 22 for 145 and a touchdown. But again, another passer rating in the hundreds. This one 109.3. He is consistently efficient passing
Oh,
the football. He just knows the offense and the personnel so well. Talking about this ground game, though, Montgomery and Gibbs, what a combo. Last week, 172 yards combined, total yards from scrimmage, and a touchdown between them. Detroit has the highest scoring offense in the league at 32.2 points a game. It is fun to watch them go. And the Detroit defense, they do give up a lot of yards, especially through the air.
mhm.
Interesting for this matchup. But they're good against the run and don't give up a lot of points. They're sixth in the NFL, giving up just 18 and a half points a game. So we'll see how that defense of theirs that has some weak spots can hold up against this Texans squad, which can be pretty fun.
Yeah, and the Texans, they've been a different team on the road than they've been at home. Luckily for them, this game is at home. CJ Stroud really struggled last week, 11 to 30, 191 yards,
Hmm.
just not good enough. When they've been their best, it's been Joe Mixon, 24 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. They need to make sure that he stays in the mix. And then receiving wise, we know that banged up no Diggs, no Nico.
Yep.
That puts a lot on Tank Dell's plate. Last week he played well, 6 grabs, 126 yards, but kind of like empty calories because they weren't getting points off of these drives. They weren't converting. So they've got to put up points if they want to stay in this game with these Lions. We'll see if they can pick it up in a couple tough games for these Texans. But like I said, this one's at home. I expect them to play better, but Detroit is playing such great football that it's a tough task at hand for those Texans.
No doubt. Back to the turnover ratio. Both these teams definitely like the turnovers.
Yeah.
The Lions are plus 11, though. I believe that is number one in the league, and Houston is plus 4. So we'll see if the turnovers are friendly to either team in this one. Also, we did just mention it at the top of the show there. They did bring in the Lions edge rusher za'darius Smith.
Yeah.
He actually might play in this game. So if he did, that would be a nice addition. Obviously, they're still missing the edge rusher Hutchinson
Hutchinson,
there.
yeah, and we haven't heard anything about that. I can't imagine after what I saw that he's going to be back anytime
I don't think so.
this year. So, but also another potential Super Bowl preview.
Ooh, that is a good point. Then that one would be a fun one between two teams, I guess, that have a 13-4 combined record. Moving on to Monday Night Football. This one's Veterans Day too, Casey. So it's a nice day off for the people there. It is going to be the Miami Dolphins at the Los Angeles Rams. Rams are at home and favored by 2.5 in this one.
Yeah, dude, and those Dolphins, man, they gave the Bills every bit of what they wanted, and then some. Just lost on the 61-yard field goal to put that
Tough,
thing away. Having Tua back in that thing, obviously, it's a different team.
big
And
time.
Davon a chain, bro. This cat is a weapon. He can take it to the house anywhere on the field. And Raheem Mostert's back. He started the season a little bit banged up, so they're finally getting that run game going. But obviously, with Tua there. It's a different team. And I think I saw it last week. I don't have it in front of me, but Jalen Waddle, I think, was one catch or -4 yards and a touchdown. It was the weirdest stat line ever,
I did see
dude.
him do the waddle in the end zone, so
Yeah.
he definitely has the TD. So
Yeah. So, you know, maybe they could get back into this mix. They're going to have to get this win on the road against a tough Rams team. And this, the Rams, bro, they are a strong team. Matt Stafford hitting them the fountain of youth there, but Kyron Williams, dude, I
yeah,
love the way this guy runs. If I could
me
go back, I would
too.
have drafted him in the first round of this fantasy draft. But he's trying to stay in there. The Rams could be one of those sneaky teams that is going to steal the wild card. Heck, they're actually just one game back of these Cardinals who have a tough Jets team going. So the Rams could still get this division. This is a big game. Also, a potential Super Bowl preview, but
Yeah,
you know, the Dolphins really have to do some work at 2 and
yeah.
6. A
At
lot of
Tua
stuff is
and
going to have to
6.
go right. Oh yeah, you bet my life. Brought that the other week, so it's going to be tough. The Rams have a lot more to play for, but the Dolphins, they're going to be a tough out for
Well, the
anybody.
Dolphins have that desperation thing. You don't want to get that seventh loss.
Mm-mm.
That's then after that, your margin for errors. I mean, you basically almost have to run the table, so
Yeah,
they can't afford it. But the Rams, like I said, that division's all topsy turvy. They're right there in the mix. They played great. I believe that they've won 3 in a row. So they are on a little bit of a tear. They were going to trade some people, and that stuff went away pretty
yeah.
quickly. Right now, they're in business there at 4-4.
Yeah, and the Dolphins, they will have to catch the Titans, the Jets, the Bengals, and the Colts and the Broncos to sniff that 7th spot. So it's going to be tough sledding, but
Yeah,
all the weapons are there. I mean, there's obviously when Tua's gone, they didn't have a quarterback. So if he can stay healthy for the rest of the season, then
they can
maybe
stack
the
together
Dolphins
some
have
wins,
life.
and they can make
Yeah,
it interesting.
4-game win streak cures what ails you, baby. But it's
Sure
got to
does.
start sometime sooner than later. Maybe Monday night.
Woo!
Good stuff. Dude. So many ways you can check out the Football Dudes, the Trend Zone, the podcast you're listening to right now, available for subscription on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, wherever the hell you get your podcasts.
Yeah, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Instagram and Facebook, and follow us on X at Football Dudes LA. And
Eh,
make sure you tag us across all those social media platforms.
Yeah, we appreciate that. And if you're out there just surfing the interwebs, go ahead and bookmark footballdudes.com. That is going to do it for this episode of the Trend Zone. We're not the suits that talk football. We're the dudes that know football. For Dave, I am Casey. Enjoy the games this weekend, people. We are out of here.